So if you're planning to move to Virginia Beach, Norfolk, or Chesapeake, this video is intended to help you decide which one is the best for you to move to. So what I'm going to do today is compare these three cities, Virginia Beach, Norfolk, and Chesapeake, and compare them in different categories. And these categories are things like the vibe, the overall vibe of these three cities, the things to do, the shopping, the real estate, and the prices here. Is it cheaper or more expensive to live in each one? And of course, school districts too. So by the end of this, you'll get a full perspective on what each city, Virginia Beach, Norfolk, and Chesapeake, feels like and what it might be like to live in these cities, so you can then make the decision for yourself of which one is best to live. I'll also give you my favorite of these three cities and why at the end of the video as well. I'm going to first show you on the map where each of these three cities are. Virginia Beach is on the eastern side of the south side of Hampton Roads, and then Chesapeake is on the southern side, and then also the west side. And then Norfolk's kind of being hugged by Chesapeake and Virginia Beach in the middle, right around in here. So first, let's talk about the vibes of these three cities. So number one is Virginia Beach. Virginia Beach, you may have heard a lot about the beach. It's got definitely a beach vibe. The beach itself has a unique environment that is not like the rest of Virginia Beach or even most of the rest of Hampton Roads. And it's got the tourists on the coast, around the boardwalk, around the long stretch of beach that's on the eastern side on the Atlantic Ocean. You got more beaches than that. You got a lot of beach vibe. Even off the coast a little bit, there's some nice bungalow style neighborhoods that like Shadow Lawn and the Vibe District that are very close to the beach that make it feel like a beach. So when you're coming here and you want to be close to the beach, these are the areas that you can often focus on. However, as you come off of the beach, like a mile or so, it turns into suburbia. And a lot of it. It's a big city. It's got almost 500,000 people, but a lot of these people live in a very different type of environment compared to the beach atmosphere that the Virginia Beach name might imply. It's got a lot of strip malls, a lot of houses, residential neighborhoods all over the place. A lot of them built anywhere from the 50s and 60s, and you'll see a lot of them more even in the boom of Virginia Beach. The next one that was in the 80s and 90s. A lot of houses built in these time periods. And then you get starting to see newer construction, 2000s, 2010s, and newer construction, 2023 even. You'll see a lot of different age houses built, but a lot of similar types of houses as you come off of the coast. Now, it's not super cookie cutter. I mean, you'll notice that there is a lot of difference as you drive through Virginia Beach. It's not like a master plan community all across the city, but you'll see a lot of neighborhoods, and you'll see a lot of neighborhoods that have houses that have similarities to them because of when they were built. So you'll find variety, but not extreme variety. Now, going to Norfolk. Norfolk is a very drastic difference compared to Virginia Beach. Norfolk is it's an old city. A lot of houses built in the 1920s, 1930s. And even into the World War II time period, a lot of Cape Cod style in the 40s. And that's kind of what makes up the meaty middle, the heart of a lot of Norfolk. But the other part of Norfolk, like Ghent, anywhere near downtown Norfolk, that's totally different compared to the middle, like we got those Cape Cod in the central. You got a lot of houses that are built in the 20s and 30s, Craftsman style, Victorian style, that totally different vibe that you get in the western part of Norfolk. However, with the western part of Norfolk, it feels like a very historic part of town. I mean, it is, but you kind of feel like you live in that kind of area. So if you want a more eclectic, more kind of this historic, it feels like you live in a character-laden town. That's the part of Norfolk that has that. The rest of Virginia Beach, Norfolk, for the most part, and most of Chesapeake does not have that either. And so if you want the unique character, the culture, the arts, the unique styles of houses, even cobblestone streets in parts of Norfolk and Ghent and Freemason, you're not going to find that anywhere else except on the western part of Ghent, Freemason, the sides of, and I'll show you on the map where that is. On this western side here, this whole side is going to be totally different than the rest of Norfolk and the rest of Virginia Beach and even through Chesapeake. The rest of Norfolk kind of feels like old suburbia. It has rundown parts. It has some nicer parts. It's a kind of a mixed bag. There are some benefits to living in Norfolk in these parts that we'll talk about here later as well. Now going to Chesapeake. Chesapeake is, if you want country, people think this is the place to go for country is Chesapeake, which partly is true. South Chesapeake, you see all this land down here, all this greenery. It is country, and I mean, lots of septic tanks, lots of well systems, driving just long country roads, large acreage and custom houses and all that. But as you get closer to Virginia Beach and Norfolk, this is where you'll find more Suburbia again. Parts of Chesapeake actually feel very similar to Virginia Beach in a lot of ways, especially with how the houses are in Virginia Beach compared to Chesapeake, South Chesapeake. When I'm saying South Chesapeake, I'm talking Great Bridge, Grassfield, and Hickory school districts primarily. But as you get closer to Virginia Beach, you're going to be closer to Greenbrier Mall, and you get more houses that are similar to Virginia Beach. And so in Chesapeake, a lot of these houses were built in the 80s and 90s. This is when a lot of Chesapeake became really big. Greenbrier has more, maybe some in the 60s, 70s, but you'll start seeing more in the 80s and 90s as well in Greenbrier. But going down further south in Great Bridge and Grassfield and Hickory, all this area down here started in the 80s, but then as the development line kept going further south and west, you'll find more newer houses as you get further away into Hickory, Grassfield, 2000s, 2020. You'll start seeing more of that because there are more places where people could build and people wanted to move to because there was enough infrastructure in these parts of towns. The central part of Chesapeake has more of an older feel, kind of like Norfolk, right here in the central park. It's actually called South Norfolk. And also over towards the western side, western branch, it feels a lot like South Chesapeake. It has its own ecosystem here, but it feels also still very suburban. So a lot of Great Bridge, Grassfield, Hickory still feels suburban. The same goes with Western Branch. The difference here is that with suburban Chesapeake, you get a smack of a lot of rural country land still that you won't really find in Virginia Beach or Norfolk. Though Virginia Beach has some in the southeastern part, this not to the same degree as you'd find in Chesapeake. So for me, the vibe in Ghent, hard to replicate. I like that a lot compared to other parts of town. Ghent, the western side of Norfolk, I love that area because it has such a unique character to the area that you really can't find, not just anywhere else here, but a lot of places on the East Coast. Now let's talk about things to do. So Virginia Beach has a lot of options outdoor-wise. A lot of parks, over 200 publicly funded parks, one of which massive, the First Landing State Park on the northeastern side, and also you see all these little green spots. Not all of them. Some of them are golf courses, but a lot of them are also parks. Another one, Mount Trashmore, a massive one that's great. The beach, of course. Got Falls Cape State Park. Got Back Bay Wildlife Refuge on the southeastern side. A lot of parks and also some nightlife. So specifically the beach, you've got especially concerts along the beach. You've got kids, a lot of rec sports and that kind of stuff in Virginia Beach. It's just a large city that has that kind of stuff in it. And even downtown. So it's got a downtown like Town Center, multiple performing arts centers, Funny Bone Comedy Club, a lot of evening stuff that you can do in Town Center, in the beach. Virginia Beach has some great restaurants, especially near the beach, some great seafood places. We love Waterman's. It's on the ocean front. No Frill Grill, Blue Seafood. These are all in like the suburban parts of Virginia Beach, but some great seafood places. Aldo's is a great place in Hilltop. Hilltop's another great spot to go to eat out. So if you want things to do separate from outdoors, you're going to have a lot of restaurant options in Virginia Beach. It's just not a lot of like going to, like, for example, a sports team. There's not a lot of that happening in Virginia Beach. You have to go to Norfolk for that. What you'll find a lot with nightlife is when you shift over to Norfolk. Norfolk has the nightlife. So that includes downtown Norfolk and also Ghent, like I mentioned before. Scope, Chrysler Hall, really nice performing arts centers. Harbor Park, where the Norfolk Tides play. They just won the International League, Minor League Championship, AAA. Norfolk also has the Norfolk Admirals, the hockey team that plays in Scope. It's got the zoo there as well. And you got some beach, like on the north side in Ocean View, which people don't pay attention to that as much, but it's also up there too. The Norfolk Botanical Gardens. So you have some outdoor things as well in Norfolk. But downtown, the nightlife, the restaurants, that whole scene is more prominent in Norfolk compared to Virginia Beach. So you got a mixed variety of things to do in Norfolk. Restaurant scene, historic scene, the culture, the arts districts. You'll find more of that in Norfolk compared to Virginia Beach. Now, Chesapeake is known to be boring, okay? Chesapeake is ranked, I believe, I can't remember which year it was ranked the most boring city in the country. It doesn't surprise me. A lot of country. You'll get some decent restaurants. Burrito Perdido is one of my favorites that is in Chesapeake. It's a burrito place in a gas station, if it gives you any idea of what I'm talking about. The Kurvan Kebab House, which is near like the central part of Chesapeake, that is a great Turkish place. But you notice that there's just less restaurants, less things to do. I've lived in all three of these cities, and I spent a lot of time. I have a lot of friends that grew up in Chesapeake, and when we hung out as kids, teenagers in Chesapeake, there was not a whole lot to do. We went to Barnes & Noble, for goodness sakes, and did homework at the Barnes & Noble. not really a whole lot else left to do if you're a teenager. So it's that kind of place. But there are some outdoor stuff. There's some parks, Chesapeake City Park, the Great Dismal Swamp. There's some stuff for kids like sports teams and rec stuff for kids, but not a ton. It's more like a small town feel in a lot of Chesapeake. And we'll talk about the benefits to being in Chesapeake with this vibe here shortly. So the best to me of these three for things to do, I'd say is Norfolk. It has the best balance of things to do inside and out. But Virginia Beach has a runner-up because it has a ton of parks and outdoor stuff and the beach, of course, but I'm just not a beach guy. Chesapeake is a distant third. So next is school districts. So if you're coming here to focus on school districts, big differences here. So Virginia Beach has a ton of high-ranked school districts. I mean, Cox, First Colonial, Kellam, Salem, Princess Anne. What am I forgetting? Ocean Lakes, Tallwood, Lansdowne, Kempsville. These aren't all super high on if you look on the rankings list, they're not all super high, but compared to each other, you'll find that there are some that are real high. People often come here for the schools. That's a high bar to meet for other cities in Hampton Roads. So comparing that to Norfolk, Norfolk has some that are known as very relatively low ranked. And I've told this before as a real estate agent, I can't tell you which spots I can say are awesome or not good. I do encourage you to please do your research and find out what makes sense for you. To me, a lot of people I've found that want Norfolk, often, if they don't want public school, they go to private school. Places like Norfolk Academy, Norfolk Christian, Norfolk Collegiate. These are all in Norfolk, and also Cape Henry in Virginia Beach. That's further away, but that's another option as well. A lot of other private schools that are kind of all across Norfolk and Virginia Beach. Now, Chesapeake, you compare it to Virginia Beach, a lot of high-ranked ones in Chesapeake too. Primarily, Grassfield, Hickory, Great Bridge. Western Branches is in there too. You'll find some others. So a lot of people also often compare the Virginia Beach school districts to the Chesapeake school districts. They're very comparable online, so definitely check out and find out which ones make the most sense. So now, shopping and grocery stores. I think grocery stores are a very important piece of where you live because you go there so often, right? So I think that's important. So I combine the shopping with grocery stores. Virginia Beach has, because it's a suburban city, a ton of grocery stores. Hilltop, one of those primary spots with a lot of shopping, grocery stores, Fresh Market, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, those boutique grocery stores too, and shopping, big boxes as well, Target, Walmart. A lot of things in Great Neck, but also primarily Hilltop. A lot of other places too, just strip malls all across Virginia Beach. Lynn Haven Mall, you've got Town Center, you've got a lot of, just as you drive down a lot of the main roads, you'll find strip malls, and you're not going to find a shortage of retail in all different types. So if you live in Virginia Beach, you'll be able to get access to this within anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes of a grocery store that you might like, and also some shopping areas. There's Sam's Club, there's BJ's, there's also Wegmans, my favorite grocery store, plenty of Kroger, plenty of Harris Teeters. You'll find like Food Lions all across. I think if you're looking for shopping in Virginia Beach, I would say focus on other things first, and you'll find grocery stores and shopping that's relatively close to you. The differences are going to be as far as feel with how old those areas are. So if you live in an older part of Virginia Beach, you might find older shopping centers. That's going to be the primary difference. But as you get closer to like the southeastern part, like Red Mill, that's a newer part of town with newer shopping centers. So that's probably the primary difference. But if you go to Norfolk, it's an older town, older shopping centers, older grocery stores. Food Lions primarily, you'll find like a Fresh Market, you'll find a Harris Teeter in the western part near Ghent. But for the most part, a lot of older shopping centers and grocery stores here. That's one of the drawbacks I'd say is that while there are some newer ones, there are some Harris Teeters and Kroger options in Norfolk. There aren't as many, and so you have to drive further to get to those types of stores. So if you want that, you might have a bigger issue getting to those in Norfolk, and you might find that it's not as enjoyable to live in a place like Norfolk if being close to those shopping centers is a benefit to you. You've got downtown Norfolk. MacArthur Center Mall has basically become a shell of itself, and so that used to be the prime mall of the area, not so much anymore. So just less shopping. Ghent has some boutique stuff, and just there's more in Ghent, that kind of thing, but it's not a lot. So I'd say in general, you'll find less in Norfolk shopping-wise, except for the Norfolk outlets that is on the eastern side of Norfolk. Chesapeake has a lot of similarities to Virginia Beach in this regard as far as shopping, grocery stores, because it has a very suburban kind of a bunch of houses dynamic, you'll find more of these like neighborhood Walmarts. A lot of Harris Teeters. In Greenbrier, lots of shopping in Greenbrier. Great spot for plenty of shopping. And then some new, the Summit Point. So you'll find plenty of strip malls, newer strip malls compared to most of Norfolk. About the same compared to what you might find in Virginia Beach as far as how they feel. But if you live in Chesapeake, you're going to have relatively decent access to shopping and grocery stores. Just not the same level, maybe as much as Virginia Beach, but not that far off either. Being close as close as you can to Greenbrier can help because there's a lot of stuff in close proximity in Greenbrier for shopping and grocery stores that you might find it's worth it to live close to there. Otherwise, if you're in Western Branch, same kind of thing in Western Branch as far as there's a central location. The Chesapeake Square area has a mall, other big box stores. So shopping access there is it's nice to be close to this if you're in Western Branch. And so I'd say that there's some drawbacks to being in Western Branch because you're further away from things. But from the standpoint of being near shopping, it's a little bit easier than it used to be because Western Chesapeake has been built up over time where you've got more of an ecosystem here that you don't have to drive too far to get to most essentials. Now you can go to another hack in Chesapeake Western Branch is you can get Suffolk next door. Suffolk has more of shopping access and some that newer environment in that area too that's very close to Western Branch. So if I was going to pick for shopping, I'd pick Virginia Beach over Chesapeake and Norfolk. I think Chesapeake is number 2, Norfolk is number 3, just not as much shopping and grocery access in Norfolk. Now the houses and the real estate. So this is my wheelhouse. So if I'm comparing these three, there are some differences, and I think the reasons why they're cheaper or more expensive parts of Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, and Norfolk depend on different preferences that people have or lifestyle decisions that people are making. So Virginia Beach is going to be, generally speaking, the most expensive of all three of these. In general, you'll find that the median sales prices in Virginia Beach are going to be higher, we're talking in the low to mid 400s, but that's a very wide range there. On the beach, you're talking $800 to over $1 million, over $2 million, over $3 million in some spots, or on the water at all in general. So like not just the beach itself, but especially a lot of these riverfront access points near Little Neck, near Great Neck, some amazing waterfront access. And it can get you to the Lynn Haven Inlet near the Chesapeake Bay, near the Atlantic Ocean. You can get boats into those waterways from these water spots in Little Neck, in Great Neck, off of like the northwestern side near Thorogood, Thalia. All these spots have great water access. But that's the most expensive. And one of the reasons why it's also expensive is because there's just not a lot of it. So you've got the north side, you've got Chicks Beach, you've got Cape Story by the Sea, got a lot of condos up and down this north section as well. North end, a big neighborhood vibe, but also the north side that has a lot of kind of a beach bungalow vibe. There's not a lot of other cities that have the same amount of water access. And so this is what makes part of the cost of Virginia Beach, like the ocean front itself or the beach front, more expensive. But if you come off of Virginia Beach, the actual beach, you'll find that a lot of the suburbs are going to be anywhere from mostly in the 4s, 5s, and 6s. That's that meaty middle section, I'd say, for price in Virginia Beach for like a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath house. But it depends on which school district you live in, depends on which area, which part of town you live in. You can find houses that are under 400, under 350, even under 300, especially townhouses. And that's where the most of the options are in Virginia Beach that are under 3 are townhouse style, like 2-3 bedroom townhouses. But most of Virginia Beach is going to be anywhere from like 375, 400 up into the 575 to 600 price range. As you go up over 6, you'll find a lot of nice neighborhoods. Most of them are going to be in Little Neck and Great Neck. They're going to be, mostly built anywhere from 50s and 60s. Sometimes it skips a little bit. Then back into the 80s and 90s, you'll find a lot of these $600,000, $700,000 houses. And as it gets newer, you'll find that most of them are going to be 800, 800 and up. And so the newer construction can be mostly over 800,000 or 900,000 at this point. So that being said, if you want the best, the nicest, the most in-demand parts of the Hampton Roads area, that's where Virginia Beach is. But you can find some nooks in Virginia Beach that are, instead of buying a house that's $750, you can get some in there for like $625, $650. If you, instead of buying like the most prime neighborhood at $600, you can get some that are real nice, really well wooded for $550, $575, and you wouldn't even notice too much of a difference. So it's not just that if you buy a certain type of vibe in Virginia Beach, you're going to be paying the same amount in every part of town. That's a very important distinction. There's a lot of different parts of Virginia Virginia Beach that you can get some really great neighborhoods that don't cost as much as other parts of the same city. So don't assume that, oh my gosh, I'm priced out of Virginia Beach. That shifts me over to Norfolk. Norfolk, the prices are cheaper. Generally speaking, you're going to be talking in the 3s and 4s. That's that meaty section of Norfolk. But it depends on where you are. A lot of the central part of Norfolk is going to be in the 3s and 4s. But as you get closer to, for example, Ocean View used to be a lot cheaper. Now that a lot more newer construction has come in here, you're going to be talking more starting in the 4s and 5s, but newer construction is going to be 6 and up mostly. East Beach, closer to 7 and up, over $1 million. If you're talking on the western side near Ghent and Larchmont and Colonial Place, these neighborhoods over here, they're going to be mostly starting in the 4s and mostly in the 5s and up. These are going to be more of the character laden, like the Ghent, the West Ghent, those craftsman style, 3,000 square feet, 2,500 square feet, but high ceilings. These are going to be higher in price compared to the rest of Norfolk. So you're going to be comparing like places like Ghent, West Ghent, with other places that might be comparable to the cost of Virginia Beach and like these 6s and 7s. You'll find that for the same size house, you might find that the cost of Norfolk might be cheaper than Virginia Beach, but it depends on what you want. If you want the vibe of Norfolk, you might find that it's better just to live in Ghent. But the cost of Ghent is very comparable to the cost of kind of a little bit higher priced house in Virginia Beach. Less townhouses in Norfolk, which might be a drawback if you want the more attached living. You might find more of townhouse style in Virginia Beach. However, Norfolk has more condos, like for example in Ghent. A lot of condos in Ghent. So just because you live in Ghent doesn't mean you're paying $600,000-$700,000 for a house. You can get $275,000, $325,000 entry-level condos in Ghent too. Now that leads me to Chesapeake. Chesapeake, it has a lot of similarities to Virginia Beach, but also a little bit in Norfolk as well. So Chesapeake, the prices are going to be, if you look at the prices, they're almost to the level of Virginia Beach right now. Median sales prices are getting high. You'll find houses like in the school districts that people compare in Chesapeake compared to Virginia Beach. You'll find that the prices are often relatively close to the same. For example, like Hickory Grassfield Great Bridge, you'll find a lot of houses more so in the upper 4s, 500s, and 600s, and going up in the 7s and 8s a lot of times too. Similar to what you might find in Virginia Beach. And these houses are going to be more suburban, like 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath. You know, a lot of brick ranches in Great Bridge, though, older ones, 60s. But as Chesapeake grew and increased in population, the houses that were in the 80s and 90s just kind of took over Chesapeake. And you'll find a lot of those like classic, kind of relatively modern style, contemporary style houses, kind of comparable to what you might find in Virginia Beach, just less of it. That's a lot of South Chesapeake. And you get also houses like the South, like the rural part of Chesapeake. You're going to find more custom houses, larger, more acreage. That's like 600 and up usually because you're paying for the land and the size of house a lot of times too. So as you get closer to the central part of Chesapeake, you get more of what they call it South Norfolk. This is actually Chesapeake, and you get more of what you might feel like you'd find in Norfolk. Cheaper houses, $300 to $400 a lot of times, but it just doesn't feel the same, like I mentioned before, as you would in the rest of Chesapeake. If you want cheaper options, this is a place to find it in the central part in South Norfolk, which is on the map. I'll show you where that is right here, back to where we were talking about before, right here close to the Elizabeth River, closer to Norfolk, closer to Portsmouth. In the rest of Chesapeake, Deep Creek, you can get more affordable houses in Deep Creek compared to the rest of Chesapeake, South Chesapeake, in the upper 3s and the mid 4s and low 5s. And then going into Western Branch, you're going to find a bit more affordable compared to South Chesapeake too. But these are going to be, you can find for a house you might buy in South Chesapeake for $500. You might find the same thing for $460 or $450 maybe in Western Branch. It's an interesting tidbit here. If you want a house that has 3 full baths and up, you'll find that Western Branch has a higher concentration of those types of houses, as I think you'd find in other parts anywhere else in Hampton Roads. So if I was going to pick a city as my favorite for houses, personally, I like Virginia Beach the most. It has the most options, has kind of a balance of style of house and character. I think that one of the issues people have when they move to this area is that they want character or want a kind of unique house, like for example in Norfolk, but they also don't want a lot of the other things that Norfolk has. So they end up trying to find the balance of all things, and I find that Virginia Beach usually ends up being that balance. So next thing is going to be traffic. So Virginia Beach has, with a suburban element to it and a larger city, you're not really sure what to expect with Virginia Beach traffic. I think the people that live here complain about it, but when it comes down to it, the traffic is really not that bad. You'll find unexpected backups, and the unexpectedness of it can often lead to the frustration, I think. Driving from one side of the city to the other can take 30 minutes because it's a very large city. However, there's a lot of places where it's just more of an annoyance, like 15 minutes, 12 minutes, 17 minutes, but it's start and stop. That's the kind of traffic that's the most annoying here. Now going to Norfolk, Norfolk's traffic can be a bit annoying compared to the rest of towns, mainly because you've got downtown and the interstate, and of course not just downtown, but going across to the rest, like towards Portsmouth. There's a tunnel that takes you towards Portsmouth, another tunnel that takes you over towards the north side of Portsmouth, midtown and downtown tunnels. And so there's a lot of congestion in and around the downtown areas of Norfolk. And it's just an older city, and there's less ability, from what I can tell, to expand roads as well as you could in parts of Virginia Beach. So the traffic you find in Norfolk kind of has been there for a long time, and it's going to be kind of hard to get rid of it completely. I think part of the reason too is that a lot of people will find themselves wanting to live in Ghent, but when you live in Ghent, you're kind of stuck in the corner of of Norfolk. So you have to drive out of there, out of the kind of the start and stop and the downtown aspects of Norfolk to get to the rest of, like, for example, Virginia Beach or Chesapeake, especially considering the flooding that you might find more frequently in Norfolk compared to Virginia Beach as well, which can also lead to more backups. Norfolk's traffic is the worst on 64. 64's traffic is awful at random times. The Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel can be a nightmare, and they're trying to fix it. They're doubling the width and the size of the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel. It's taking years, though, to do. It's going to be done in several years. So until then, you're going to be dealing with a lot of traffic on 64. This is going to be the worst traffic to me in all parts of Hampton Roads, is this road right here coming all through 64. Now, Chesapeake, it's a larger city and more like longer roadways, I guess, less start and stop because there are less suburban roads as compared to Virginia Beach. But it's a large city, so you'll find some traffic as the city has grown, but it's not nearly as bad as the other two cities to me. Western Branch's traffic is going to be not too bad, but you're going to have a harder time getting to Virginia Beach or Norfolk if you live in Western Branch. Now, the benefit to being in Western Branch, though, is you're also pretty close to Newport News and Hampton, that side, the peninsula. You can take the Monitor Merrimack Bridge Tunnel or the James River Bridge that takes you up to the peninsula, so you can see right here. That's a pretty nice benefit that you don't get compared to places like Norfolk or Virginia Beach. So if I was going to pick one of these three for traffic, I'd probably pick Chesapeake compared to Norfolk and Virginia Beach. Chesapeake just has more free roadways. You get from place to place relatively easily. It's just further away from things, which makes it more annoying. So from the traffic perspective, I'd pick Chesapeake. But as far as getting places, I think I pick Virginia Beach the best. So which city do I like the best personally? I like Virginia Beach over Norfolk or Chesapeake. It's close. We considered Chesapeake compared to Virginia Beach ourselves. We also considered Norfolk, but we really wanted the balance of all things, and we liked Virginia Beach for that balance. But I can definitely see benefits to all three, and definitely some drawbacks too. But the one thing about all three of these cities is none of the cities have it all. And that's one thing I think that people, as I help people make decisions about where to live, you find that you have to give up something to be in each city. And so it's really a matter of your own personal preferences to figure out which city makes the most sense. But you don't get everything in all cities. But the good thing about these three cities, comparatively speaking, are that if you live in one, you're not really that far away from the other two. So if you want to, if you work in Virginia Beach, work in Chesapeake, but you want to commute and live in a different city, it's really not that big of a deal, but it's really at the extremes of the area. If you live on the northwestern side of Norfolk and commute to the southeastern side of Virginia Beach or vice versa, that's going to take 40-ish plus minutes. That's where it can get more frustrating on the extremes. So if you have any questions, though, about relocating to Norfolk, Virginia Beach, or Chesapeake, or anywhere through Hampton Roads, through Williamsburg, let me know. This is what I do, and I love helping people relocate to this area. So if you have any questions, drop a comment, send me a text, email, call. I'm a real estate agent, and this is what I do. So I'd love to help you relocate to the area, and I'll see you on the next video.